Hello, Dismantling here with another top 5 episodes of Billy and Mandy. This time we'll be looking at Season 4. Overall, I wasn't too excited about doing Season 4, not because it's a bad season, just in comparison to Season 3, it just didn't feel as strong. But that said, there's still some very, very good episodes in this, so let's begin. Number 5, Billy Idiot. In this episode, Billy dreams about being a great dancer and is accepted to Mrs. Pollywinkle's school for the dancing and talented, etc., etc. And Billy's dad has some objections to being a dancer because he once was a dancer until his own father crushed his dreams. But he drives him to the school anyway, only to find out the school is not exactly what it seems. Let's start off with the obvious. This episode is a parody of Billy Elliot, a movie I haven't really seen. So, when I watched this as a kid, from the beginning, and when I rewatched it, that movie had no effect on how I felt about this episode. But other than that, it's a very silly episode in general. Billy's dad has a more prominent role than usual, and he actually manages to not be too obnoxious. And in this one, he's actually a lot of fun, and he actually has some pretty good lines.
Lady! No one steals Billy's soul! That wasn't in the school curriculum!
This episode kind of reminded me of some of the old Scooby-Doo movies. Not like the really old ones, but you know, the ones from like the late 80s, early 90s. Like the one where Shaggy and Scrappy and Scooby go to be teachers at a school for monsters kids. It just kind of reminded me of that. I don't know if it was the scenery, like the way the trees looked on the drive to the school, but it did. The school itself is designed like Foster's home, so I can't really say it's a full parody of Foster's, but it is designed that way. There are even Shaolin Showdown references in this episode. Overall, it's a pretty good episode, not one of my favorites in the season, that's why it's not higher up on the list, but still worth a watch. Number 4, Wishbone. In this episode, a magical skull can grant 9 wishes, and it gets passed around through the various inhabitants of Ennsville. I love this episode because you actually get to see a lot more of the minor characters in the show, and you kind of get a look into their psyche a little bit. Because what they wish for is a reflection of who they are. A lot of them it's kind of predictable, but it's still fun to watch anyway. One of the things I really liked was the first wish, which was Billy's. I love Johnny Quest as a kid. Growing up when I was a really small child, one of the first shows I was able to say in like full length was Johnny Quest. So to see a Johnny Quest parody on this episode made me love it immediately. Another thing to note about this episode is the skull rhymes whenever he speaks. Now this could have really easily become very, very annoying very quickly, but the rhymes are so few in between, like the skull really doesn't get that much dialogue, so they managed to not make it too obnoxious and in your face. But they also managed for you to not really feel too sorry for the skull for being trapped. The soul has to grant wishes and is only freed until all his wishes are granted, but you don't really feel sorry for him. You're too much being enthralled in the wishes. And like most wish episodes in any show ever, the wishes backfire on people. My favorite wish out of the whole episode is Puddin'. I know I'm giving a lot more spoilers away than I normally do, but Puddin's wish is amazing. He wishes for a bunny that will always love him, and he ends up getting a psychopathic killer bunny that loves him to death. And it is probably one of the scariest things I have ever seen on the show. And that's saying something. In fact, it's probably the scariest thing I think I've ever seen in a children's television show.
What was that for?
Sometimes love hurts, Puddin', and I love you a lot.
But if you really wanted to see more of the people of Ennsville outside of Billy, Mandy, and Grimm, this episode's for you. Number 3, Happy Huggy Stuffy Bears. In this episode, Billy and Mandy go to the mall to get free toys. And Mandy gets recruited to be the new poster child for the Happy Huggy Stuffy Bears, which actually turns out to be a ploy by Eris to try to spread chaos throughout the world. This episode is on this countdown for one main reason, and I know what most of you are thinking, it's because Eris is in it, and it's not because of that. It's the voice acting for the Happy Huggy Stuffy Bears. The voice actress here is Kath Soucie. If you don't know who that is, you had no childhood between the 80s and 90s at all. She does a great job here with the happy, huggy, stuffy bears, and the lines these bears get are ridiculously creepy. You have this adorable teddy bear saying horrible things and trying to talk the children of Ensville into destroying the world.
I love you. Now destroy for me.
Destroy for you?
Yeah! Let's destroy everything. Is that naughty?
And they have the catchiest theme song for the commercial. At least it's catchy in a sort of stab your ears repetitively with a pen sort of way. But you know what? I still like it.
When I'm sad, they make me happy. When I'm scared, they give me hugs. They probably will not want me. And for that, I give them love.
Eris overall really didn't have that much of a role in this episode. When she was there, she was pretty okay. But the bears pretty much stole this episode for me. Number 2, Home of the Ancients. This episode almost escaped me. I almost completely forgot this was in Season 4. I almost turned this list into a top 4 because I couldn't think of another episode that was worthy to be on this list. In this episode, Grim, Billy, and Mandy get sentenced to community service. So they have to go and help out the elderly. Not just regular elderly, the supernatural elderly. There, Grim runs into his childhood heroes, the Wolfman, Bride of Frankenstein, and Dracula. Grim feels the need to prove to the elders that they are just as scary as any other modern monster is now. I really like the premise for this episode. It's a great commentary on the monsters of yore and the monsters of now. They even show like a Freddy and a Jason in the episode in comparison. It really does show how different horror has evolved over the years, and if those old monsters are really as corny as Billy put it, or if they really truly are still scary in comparison to newer monsters. This episode is just fun for me, mainly because of Dracula. Dracula's sort of a Red Fox mixed with James Brown, and for one thing, I love Red Fox, so Dracula is just hilarious. Anytime Dracula is on screen for me, it is going to be funny. And this is the first episode where Dracula appears, and I'm so glad that they didn't just show him once like the other monsters. He is a reoccurring character after this point.
Staples! Dracula can make do with staples! Wolfman ate up another squirrel again! Dracula tried to stop him! Get your big butt out of Dracula's face, woman!
And my number 1 pick is The Secret Snake Club. In this episode, Billy and Mandy try to figure out what school clubs they want to join. Mandy ends up joining a secret snake club, which is basically a bunch of nerds getting together and trying to bring back this ancient snake creature. Billy ends up joining the CIA club, and Erwin joins the macrame club, and they have a sort of subplot going on with both the macrame and the Billy's subplot. I didn't really care much for the Billy subplot until it reconnected into the main and the other subplot. I'm really glad that they stuck mostly to the Secret Snake Club, because they are perfect. Number 1, they got the nerd concept down. These are supposed to be RPG nerds. And they really did get it down pat. And I'm not just talking about like the typical, like, oh, they have stats sort of thing. Like, the way they interact with each other is perfect. Like, the way they argue with each other over stupid things, even the way they speak to each other when they argue is just dead on perfect. They do it in a funny way that's not too demeaning to nerds, like even nerds can watch and be like, ah, this is funny.
Well, actually, it is short for...
Say, man, how come you're level 20 and I'm only level 8? I've been in this club as long as you have!
Because, Jerome, Viper, this is the Secret Snake Club, and since I am the only one who actually owns a snake, I level up faster.
Yeah, but our meetings are always at my house, and I spent 2 hours making those crunchy treats.
But this isn't the Secret Basement and Crunchy Treats Club, now is it?
Shut up.
You shut up.
And they even have, like, a song about the snake god they're trying to bring, which is called Snishiga, and they have a Bob Dylan parody, which really seems kind of random, but, I mean, a Bob Dylan parody, I guess. And there was also a bonus message in the episode, which I caught when I was younger, but now that I have the computer, I can pause it and actually read the rest of the message. when Grimm is on the computer trying to reboot the computer, there is a message on the screen, and there is one that says, like, did you know that Billy and Mandy was a web show? And it says, like, just kidding, that was a lie. And it says something else on there, but I will just leave you to watch the episode to find the other message. But this episode really works together with mainly because of the chemistry between the nerds. And Mandy's commentary on it too, but the main thing that makes this episode is the relationship between the nerds, how they interact, and how they feel once they finally get to see the Snishiga. Well, that was the countdown. I'll see you guys next Saturday for my next list. Feel free to subscribe, rate, comment, or follow me on my blog at www.colormegoth.com. And feel free to leave your own favorite episodes, or even least favorite episodes of Billy and Mandy.